We're just days away from yet another Super Tuesday. It's a battle for the East, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us. GOP frontrunner Donald Trump wrapped up a busy day campaigning in Connecticut, where the state unemployment rate is higher than even the national average. It's one of 5 key states set to go to the polls just 3 days from now. And joining me by phone from the Trump campaign is the executive vice president of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump's son, Eric. All right. Good evening, Eric.
It's great to be on, Judge.
All right, Eric, your father is storming through the East. He's got several states that he's got to win in on Tuesday, and it appears that he is doing quite well. Do you think that Donald Trump has a chance to win before the convention with bound delegates alone?
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, I think we're going to blow through the 1237, and we're still on such an amazing high from New York. I mean, our people really came out and voted in full force. And, you know, obviously on Tuesday we've got Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Maryland, and I think we're going to do amazing. I mean, every single one of the polls has us double-digit leads over Cruz. It's actually funny, you know, coming into this contest on Tuesday, Cruz is actually dead last in most of the states, and so, you know, I think by the end of the night on Tuesday, I think we're going to have, you know, 400, 450 delegates more than Cruz, and I think for all intents and purposes, you know, that's really going to end it.
Well, no, you're right. Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Maryland, Donald Trump double digits in all of them. But what if there were to be a floor fight? Eric, do you believe that your father can win a floor fight?
Yeah, I really do. I really do. I can tell you I was in Pennsylvania yesterday, and I mean, just the spirit is so high, and I spoke to some of the delegates, and I mean, just the spirit is so high among people. You know, people are really jumping on, and they see what he's doing, and he's doing amazingly well. So, listen, I think if there was a floor fight, I think he'd win. I don't think there's going to be a floor fight. I think we're going to blow through, you know, the 1237. In fact, I think we'll have many more. You know, the polls in Indiana look incredible. You see the polls in California, the newest polls in California really rival our performance in New York, and so. Judge, I really think we're going to just blow through it, and I think we're going to take it all the way. And, you know, I think, you know, Cruz has really, you know, had his last stand.
All right. Now, this week, the RNC meeting in Florida, and a couple of things came out of that. One is that they're saying that the RNC is not going to change any of the rules. And then they also, what came out of that meeting is that Donald Trump is going to be raising money for the RNC. You know, did your dad cut a deal? Was this a quid pro quo? How did that come about?
Well, you know, the RNC also said that they have to stand behind the front runner. You know, they have to stand behind the front runner. They have to band together, and the party has to unite. And I think the party will do that. I mean, listen, the reality is the sooner we can turn our attention to Hillary, the better the chances the Republicans are going to have to win this election. And so we really need to start doing that, and we need to start doing that come Tuesday.
All right.
I mean, we're going to be 400 delegates ahead. We need to start doing that come Tuesday.
All right. And let me talk about one thing. And Paul Manafort, who is now the convention manager, says that we're going to be seeing a kinder, gentler Donald Trump. Now, I want you to listen to your dad's response.
And he said, you know, Donald might be changing a little bit over a period of time, and he'll tone it down. You know, I sort of don't like toning it down. You know, we keep the... I'm going to talk about that in a second because it's interesting. Isn't it nice that I'm not one of these teleprompter guys?
Well, okay. What do you say to that, Eric?
Well, listen, it's one of the things that makes him so special. I mean, if you look at the turnout at the polls, right, you have 2 and 3 times as many people coming out of the polls to vote. You know, and that's because of him, and that's because he's larger in life, and that's because he's actually bringing some personality in politics. And quite frankly, I think a party should embrace that. I mean, you want people voting. He's growing the party. If you look at Pennsylvania, they had 180,000 Democrats and independents that switched over to the Republican Party so that they could vote for somebody. It's about time that we grow our party.
So why did Paul Manafort say that, Eric?
Well, listen, I mean, there's a time where he's going to become very serious, and when we get the nod, he will be very serious, and he'll be an amazing president, and he's going to command tremendous, you know, respect. At the same time, he wants to, you know, he wants to have some energy, and he wants to do what he does best. And, you know, he's going to bring a lot of people into this party, and he's going to excite a lot of people. And, you know, Judge, a lot of people my generation, right, I'm 33 years old. There's a lot of people my generation who's wanted nothing to do with politics. And I talk to my friends. They're all saying, listen, this is the most excited we've ever been. We love it. We love watching it. We can't take our eyes off the TV. That's an amazing thing, and that's solely attributable to what he's doing.
Well, there's no question about it. A quick question before we go. Kasich and Cruz, how do you get them out of the race?
Well, I don't know. At some point, I mean, if they would do what's right for the party, they would drop out. You know, you had Cruz not too long ago tell Kasich, listen, drop out. There's no path to the 1237. There's no path for you. Now there's no path for Cruz, right? I mean, he would need to win 105% of the remaining delegates or whatever it is. You know, so, I mean, it's about as hypocritical as it comes. But at the end of the day, we're going to be 400 delegates ahead come Tuesday, maybe possibly more. We're going to win this thing. I mean, the sooner they can drop out, the sooner we can turn our attention to Hillary, the better the party will be. It's just, you know, they should do it, and they should do it quickly.
All right. Eric Trump, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Judge. Great being on as always.
Take care. All right, joining me now is Jeff Bewley, general counsel to the New York State Republican Committee since 1991, former counsel to Romney for president campaign, and as well as working in Florida for the RNC or whatever that was. But you've been in a lot of presidential races, yes. All over the place. All right, Jeff, you see Donald Trump getting to 1237 before the July convention?
Well, look, it's quite possible. But the real question is, what if he doesn't? And then what are his tactics that he can use at the convention to get to 1237? And there's been a lot of articles and a lot of press lately about, well, what would the role of money and Mr. Trump's wealth play at the convention?
Well, but let's talk about that. Assuming that there is a contested convention, you've got all of these delegates, some of them bound, some of them unbound. The rules are crazy in terms of when they become unbound. Eventually, most of them become unbound by the third ballot, possibly. Right. How does a Kasich, a Cruz, or a Trump go to a delegate and say, forget about what your state said, forget about what you're sworn to do, I'm your guy?
Right.
Do I buy you dinner? Do I send you to Paris? Do I send your kid to college? What are the rules?
Well, on the first ballot, there are somewhere between 160 and 200 delegates that will be unbound. So on the first ballot, those delegates will be the target. And first and foremost is going to be politics. Most of these delegates are local or state or local leaders. And while they obviously want elected a president of the United States, their primary concern is what effect is this presidential candidate going to have on down ballot races? So it's going to come down to old-fashioned political lobbying and political strategy. And I would expect some lavish fundraisers and some lavish strategy sessions by the presidential candidates, bringing in the local delegates and convincing them that they're the best for the party and for the country.
You know what amazes me, Jeff, is that you've got these people actually running for delegates who don't even know who they're going to, you know, be supporting, and they're competing and they're going through all of these shenanigans. Why would someone want to be a delegate?
Well, I would like to hope it was for God and country.
Do you believe it?
Well, I think in some cases, yes. But, you know, that raises a good question. What could be the role of money in this process? So what could be the role of money? So first, I'd say, here's two predicate facts. First is that this convention, if Mr. Trump doesn't have 1, 2, 3, 7 going in, will be one of the most highly watched and scrutinized events in modern political history. Two, we live in an era where prosecutors and courts are vigilant and watching and trying to enforce an open, transparent, and fair political system.
So you see this as a scenario where nobody's going to cross any line, but there are no lines, are there?
Well, there are lines. There are bribery statutes. There are prohibitions against offering jobs in administrations.
Yeah, but okay, I was a delegate because I was an elected official years ago in a presidential convention.
Right.
Now, as a public official, what is it, $75, whatever it is?
No, well, in New York, it's now $15. Back when you were there, it was $75. It's been lowered. But there are state, so there's federal laws, there's state laws, there's a lot of laws.
Yeah, but I was a public official. What about the delegate who's out in Kansas and says...
Well, the bottom line is they still can't exchange their vote for cash. They still can't exchange their vote for lavish gifts. Now, they can attend a political rally or fundraiser. Now, here is what I find interesting. What is legal is that most delegates only have expenses related to attending the convention. Those delegates do not, if they only spend money on attending the convention, are allowed to get contributions and raise money to that effect, and they do not have to form and file political committees with the Federal Election Commission. They do, however, can only raise money from federally permissible sources, which means individuals and federal PACs, no corporations, no labor unions, and here's another kicker, there's no contribution limit to them. So you ask, okay, so how can they go about getting money?
Oh, wait a minute, wait. There's no contribution limit to
the delegate.
The delegates.
Right. But if someone gave them a contribution that was over and above what they would need for normal convention expenses,
well, but you know what?
might
Let's
become a
say I
gift.
want to have a Chateau Margaux or a $1,000 bottle of wine.
You know,
it's
that's
wine.
a gray line, but it's a line that, you know, a prosecutor could draw.
Okay.
You know, what do they need beyond
All right.
subsistence?
And what makes you think that they're going to be so closely watched? You can't watch every delegate.
You cannot watch any delegate, but the campaigns, it's the campaigns that are going to have to watch themselves. These are all very sophisticated organizations. They all have top flight legal counsels out of Washington, and they know what they're doing. But there is one opportunity that I believe is lawful, and that's what I was getting back to on these political committees. Now, in the past, big donors never gave to delegates for two reasons. One, conventions were coronations, and two, every donor had a 2-year aggregate limit of $42,000 in change that they could give to all federal candidates, U.S. Senate, Congress, delegates in a 2-year period. But in 2014, we had the infamous McCutcheon case, which struck down that aggregate limit. So now big donors can give to delegates without running into a cap. This is going to be the first convention post-McCutcheon, and either side or Mr. Trump himself
You're being
could decide,
very legal here. You're being very legal.
I know,
Bottom line.
but it's an opportunity for big money.
It's an opportunity for big money, which might explain why all these people are running to be delegates and getting 250 signatures and fighting to make sure the signatures are legal.
Yes.
Anyway, contested convention, yes or no?
I will say yes.
I will say no.
Okay.
Jeff Buoy, my old friend, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, and so what do these unbound delegates expect in exchange for their support? I'm talking to a potential one tonight, and I'm going to ask him. And next, John Kasich, no path, no chance to get to 1237. So why is this man still in the race? I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask Charlie Black, a John Kasich strategist and a longtime Republican insider. Plus,